Huh, we're live. Okay, so we're now live. I'm going to go share this with some people.
Yeah, I am going to do the same.
All right. So I've got that on Discord. I'll go send it on the Twitter.
Cool.
Okay. Tweeted. All right, now we got somebody in there. Make yourself known so I can know who you are. Cosmere Podcast. Never fear. Okay, cool.
Oh, Cosmere Podcast is always in there. They're
Yep, Horizon. Welcome, Horizon, and Chris and Little Red Book. Welcome, everybody. This is being simulcast on the Inking Out Loud YouTube page as well. So, I mean, if you're already on ours, then maybe it doesn't make sense to go over there, but go subscribe to it. Oh, and, maybe more importantly, go subscribe to their RSS feed.
there you go.
Yeah. So if people don't know, this is Drew.
How's it going, everybody?
Drew up there. Drew is from the Inking. Oh, yeah. Sorry, you don't like my right ear? It's my safe ear. Here, how about my left one? Drew is from the Inking Out Loud podcast. You're a contributor to Tor.com. You're a beer connoisseur. I think it's pretty safe to say. You drink beer out of a glass like that, so I'd say that's pretentious enough for connoisseur status.
I don't know about connoisseur, but I enjoy it quite a lot. I was at Great American Beer Festival this weekend.
So that's in Colorado?
It is in Denver.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Hey guys, if I cover both my ears, stop telling me to cover my ears. If I cover both my ears, then it sounds weird because, like, normally when you record a podcast, you can hear what's going into the mic going into your ears, and here I can't do that. So it's just kind of like it's that thing where your ears are muffled, so you're shouting all the time. And yeah, anyway. Ooh, Horizon Brave says that wine greater than beer any day of the week. Drew, how do you feel about this?
My body does not approve of that. I get migraines if I drink red wine.
Really?
Yeah, but I do enjoy a good glass of champagne or a Spanish cava. Big fan.
Okay, all right, but no reds.
No reds. I do want to say hi to Danielle. She's in the chat on our Inking Out Loud page. She's our artist. Does the awesome thumbnails for our episodes, and she is actually one of the architects behind the current Cosmere Inktober hashtag.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, hello, Danielle.
She's pretty awesome.
Chris Bonnie.
In fact, Craig, you may have met her at JordanCon this year. Yeah, she was there.
If she was there, I probably met her at least briefly. So that's cool. Speaking of which, that's one of the topics I wanted to get to is JordanCon. What I'm really interested in is whether anybody else is going to go. So I know you and your wife Lauren are going.
Oh, yes.
We're going. We the Legendarium has booked 2 double rooms, so we are planning on 4 of us being there next year.
Nice.
So I don't.
So this means I'll get to meet Ryan finally. Oh, well, I guess I'll meet Ryan next month, probably. Actually,
that's true. Yeah, we'll get there in just a second. Yeah. But yeah, we. What was I going to say? What was it?
JordanCon double rooms.
Oh yeah. So last time, that's right. Ryan was scheduled to go. It was going to be me and Ryan and Ken last year, but Ryan got really sick just the night before, and he was going to try to tough it out and get out there, but he was like, I'm going to make you sick. I'm going to be miserable. Everybody's going to be miserable. So So he stayed behind, and it was just me and Ken, to everyone's chagrin.
Yeah.
I mean, especially mine. But, no, but it was awesome. And I don't know if you remember, like, my Jordan Con experience. Like, I really encourage everybody to go out. But if you had asked me that, like, after the first day at Jordan Con, I would have been like, eh.
I do remember when we recorded that little wrap-up episode. You said that it took you a little bit to warm up to it, but it was really Saturday when that Jordan Con vibe, the Jordan Con family embraced you.
Yeah, it was, well, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, but you and Lauren had a huge amount to do with that.
Oh, I'm glad
because
to hear it.
I didn't, because I wasn't there with anybody who had gone before,
Right.
And so it would have been perfectly easy for me to kind of like slip through the cracks and to just kind of float through the weekend and like, yeah, it's kind of a fun time. It was okay. But you especially, you were like, oh man, come to this thing, like the late night bar thing. Let's go do this together, whatever. And like you guys especially made me feel really welcome, and like, and that was like the big turning point for me. And now I'm like, hell yeah, I'm going back to Jordan Con. This is gonna be awesome. So,
nice.
Horizon Brave says, pray tell, what the hell is a Jordan Con?
Oh,
Jordan Con. Why don't you take this away, Drew?
Oh, Jordan Con is the Wheel of Time convention. It's been going for this year was Jordan Con 10, right? Yeah, I think.
Last time
Jordan Con 11.
11.
Yeah, this was Jordan Con 11. Yeah, it's in Atlanta every year. Pretty much all of Team Jordan shows up every year. Harriet's there, Maria's there, Brandon Sanderson.
You'll have to explain who they are.
Oh yeah, sorry. So Harriet is Robert Jordan's widow and his editor, and then Maria was Robert Jordan's assistant, and she was kind of in charge of keeping his lore in line. And then Alan Romanchuk was the other member of Team Jordan. He's there every year. A fascinating man. If you're at all interested in like the publishing industry and the politics of like New York book world, he's got some stories to tell. But yeah, Brandon Sanderson comes every couple of years. I think he's on a once every 3 years schedule now, so he'll be there in 2021 next. But it's a phenomenal convention. It's not only Wheel of Time; they have a Wheel of Time track, but they have a swords and sorcery track. They have a Brandon Sanderson track. They have a sci-fi track, workshops, a writer's track. If you're an amateur or a professional writer, you can apply to be a guest. There's a sweet art show, charity auction, all this crazy stuff. Just tons of fun.
So Jordan Con started, it would have been 11 years ago, so 2008. Rob Jordan was still alive at this point?
It was the year after he passed away that it
started. Okay, all right. But all the same, this is like nearly peak Wheel of Time like fandom when this starts, right? So I'm looking at what happened with the Wheel of Time, and Robert Jordan got his own convention devoted to the Wheel of Time, and it's grown, like you said. But let's be honest, it is about Robert Jordan and the Wheel of Time primarily, first and foremost. But it's nice that it's kind of about some other fantasy adjacent material. Why don't we have, and follow-up question, why don't we have a Sanderson convention out here in Utah? SanderCon, CosmereCon, whatever we want to call it.
I don't know. I can't give a firm answer, but I know it has been considered, and it is a possibility in the future.
I have every intention, and I'm being dead serious. By the way, I'm being dead serious. We're going to talk to the Sanderson team in November when Starsight is released. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to pull Adam, Brandon's assistant, aside. I'm going to say, Adam, this needs to happen. I will make it happen.
Hey, I'll be there.
and I'm dead serious. I think it needs to happen. Joshua says Brandon doesn't super want it. I think. Well, yeah. They're saying like Brandon doesn't have time for it. Brandon doesn't want it. Well, Brandon might have to deal. He might just have to deal. It needs to happen, and so he doesn't even have to go. He doesn't have to go. He would be encouraged to go, but anyway, I think it's got to happen.
Yeah. I will say the Sanderson track at JordanCon has grown quite a lot in the last few years.
Yeah.
Certainly in my experience, like as a panelist at JordanCon, I've been on both the Wheel of Time track and the Sander track, and I would say the attendance for the Sander track panels is in the last 2 years better than it has been on the Wheel of Time track. So,
really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, that'll change here with the TV show.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Speaking of which, how's that for a transition, Drew? I want a medal for that one. The Wheel of Time TV show. How are you feeling about it?
I still have a couple of slight reservations about it, but I am just, after that little table read teaser, I'm full on fanboying now. So, like, hearing Rosamund Pike
read a
actual
single
lines of
line.
dialogue, I was like, that ship has sailed now. It doesn't matter what happens next. I'm watching the hell out of that show. So,
I do want it known. Oh, excuse me. I do want it known that I am a Rosamund Pike hipster, and that I have loved her for a long, long time.
I'm with you there. She might have been my very first movie crush.
Really?
As Miranda Frost in Die Another Day.
Oh my gosh. I'm sure she would love that citation. Right? Yeah. Is that the single worst Bond movie?
It might be. It was so bad.
It's pretty bad. What was the other one that Pierce Brosnan did with Christmas Jones? What's it called?
It was one right before.
The World Is Not Enough.
Yeah, The World Is Not Enough, yeah.
The World Is Not Enough. But it had a little bit more, like, it was just as ridiculous, but it had a little bit more entertainment value. But anyway, sorry, Rosamund Pike, we're getting off topic here. She's very great and very, very pretty. I guess I don't know if I have a ton, like you, I harbor a few reservations. Mm-hmm. But I, the thing for me is that after Shannara, nothing can go that badly. Nothing. It's impossible for an adaptation to do that poorly. So I'm like, yeah, give it a shot. And if it sucks, it sucks. Don't worry, it won't suck that bad.
Right. And I feel like pretty confident, like, seeing some of the casting decisions they've made, and they're gonna put a ton of money into this. Like, let's be honest. This is not so from what I understand, Amazon greenlit like 4 fantasy shows, and they had a collective budget of $1 billion for the 4 shows. So,
which 4 shows?
I think it was Lord of the Rings was one of them, and that's going to get the lion's share, obviously. But Wheel of Time and I don't.
Are they doing The Witcher, or was that somebody else?
Witcher's Netflix, right?
Is that okay? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah. I may be wrong. Yell at me if I'm wrong in the chat. I'm not like a huge TV guy, so I could very well be wrong on that. But yeah, they're throwing a lot of money at these things. So
Carnival Row, Joshua says Carnival Row. I believe that's Amazon, but that's now. Are they counting that as one of their fantasy series?
Oh, it may have been. Danielle just said Witcher is Netflix. So
yeah, somebody else said that for me too. Yep. Okay. Well, anyway, there's a lot of, like, especially when we talk about it on the Legendarium, there's a lot of like, whatever, we'll see. Like, we're not rapidly following everything the way that some people are.
The way I am.
But I'm definitely very interested. But there's a lot of like shoulder shrugging. I'm sure it'll be fine. You know, I hope it's good. But what are you nervous about with the adaptation?
So I am nervous about the main thing I'm nervous about is how they are going to portray relationships, specifically romantic relationships. I know Rafe has been very vocal about increasing LGBT visibility in it and about altering Rand's, sorry, spoilers, everybody, Rand's relationship with the three girls, with Elaine, Avienda, and Min, to be more like a polyamory thing rather than like a
polygamy thing.
Which
so that the girls are going to be getting it too with each other, basically.
And I don't really have a problem with that aspect. I think in a lot of ways there were many bisexual undercurrents with Avienda and Elaine, especially in the books. Even
you might say that.
Yeah, you might. But what I'm honestly worried about is that they're going to make Min a guy.
Oh, really? You said they are, or you're worried they're going to?
I'm worried they will. And I think that's going to throw some real knots in the narrative if Min becomes a guy. Certain aspects of like the White Tower schism, Min's time there, they're going to have to write circles around plot points. I don't know. We'll see.
So but, where are you getting this Min as a guy thing?
So the biggest one is that Joshua, the guy playing Rand, his biggest film credit was in a gay movie. He played a gay character. And I think that knowing Rafe, that was an attractive attribute that he's like, I want to make this like a more LGBT inclusive thing with like a polyamory situation. And this could give us an opportunity to make Min so we don't just have like a one guy, three girls like fantasy thing going on, right? Which I can understand that, you know, like Robert Jordan has come under a lot of criticism over the years for that whole situation.
Understandably.
But I think they're going to have to overcome some plot hurdles in a lot of ways if they make Min a guy.
Okay.
I'll just say that.
Wow. Okay. I hadn't thought of that, but now that's making me nervous as well. For me, it's less about the specifics and more about the general air of the show. And with one of the things that is easily forgotten when you read The Wheel of Time, and this has been remarked upon a billion times, is how young everybody is.
Right.
Everybody's very, very young. But the problem is that Robert Jordan doesn't write them terribly young most of the time. Sometimes he remembers that they're 17 or 19 or whatever.
Fayil was 15.
Right.
Supposed to be 15.
Right. And so when he remembers, that's great. He can kind of remind you, but he forgets. And so you forget when you're reading it that these are not like adult characters, right?
Right.
So you take this and it like when you're reading the book, it's quite an adult oriented narrative, and that's great. And then you cast the show and you're like, oh man, all these characters are 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. And what we've got is, it reflects that. They're not quite that young. I think most of them are in their early 20s, right?
Mm-hmm.
But,
well, they start off, the Taviran boys are 19.
Jeez.
And, Egwene's 16, Elaine's 16, Avienda's like 18. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so yeah, making my point, because when you're casting them that young, they're going, like, the actors are in fact that young, and there will be a temptation to write for a teenaged audience and like play that angle, and that's what Shannara did. And it obviously, like, first of all, you can write to a teenage audience and be okay, but they sucked at it. And they, like, the people at MTV obviously think that teenagers are idiots who need to be collectively burned forever.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm afraid of with The Wheel of Time, is like, okay, everything is so young, understandably so, but like because Robert Jordan forgot that everything was so young, he wrote it adult. And the show may not take on that same kind of adult tone. It may, like, does that make sense? Ooh. It may kind of teenage dumb it down a little bit.
I find it interesting that that's your worry, because I think more people have a worry that they're going to try to turn it into like a super adult Game of Thrones, like, you know.
Well, you know, I hate to say it, but although there are more moments of levity in Wheel of Time than in Game of Thrones, like, I get that. But when you get scratch the surface just a little bit, Wheel of Time is not for the faint of heart. Like,
no.
It is pretty horrifying stuff in a lot of places, much like Game of Thrones is.
Yeah, we talked about that when you were on our Dragon Reborn episodes, where there's some moments, especially early in the Wheel of Time, that people kind of forget about how dark it got. Like, just because Robert Jordan didn't revel in the descriptions of gore and like trauma and horror the way authors like, you know, Martin or Joe Abercrombie or, you know, Mark Lawrence do, you know, we're getting a visual adaptation of this though. So there's unavoidable, if they're going to adapt these specific scenes, people are going to have to see some pretty horrible things, you know?
Right.
Like the Changu and Nidao getting like skinned alive and hanged on the trees when they're chasing Pat and Fane, and some of the stuff that Rand goes through when he's being chased
Rand in a box.
Rand in a box, yeah. Oh my gosh. If they...
That gets pretty dark.
Yeah.
So to speak.
Yeah.
Literally and figuratively.
Or full-on Dark Rand later in the series, you know.
Right. So yeah, well, that's another thing that makes me nervous, is that there's some of the coolest stuff and some of the reasons that the Wheel of Time is so great doesn't come until, like, and that's not to say books 1, 2, and 3 aren't great. They are great. And there's a reason they sold so well. But the best stuff in the series, you get in 4, 5, and 6. You get in 11, 12, 14. Yep. And so my worry is that they won't be able to get to that stuff before the show gets canceled. And so, you know, and it's hard because you're starting with those early books that aren't
necessarily as engaging. Although,
right.
I mean,
although it's hard to say that because they are really great.
Awesome stuff, yeah.
Yeah. And so anyway, I guess one of the points that I was going to make with this is that they've said that we're going to do like 2 books in one season or something like that, or there's a possibility that they're going to be compressing everything. And I've heard a lot of people complain about that. And I'm like, no, you guys, stop. If there's every chance that we won't even get 5 seasons out of this. But if we do, if that's all we can get is 5 seasons, let's try to get through the story, compress away. So that's my thing.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see how it rolls out. I know when Rafe was like tweeting out teaser pictures of scripts, some internet sleuths figured out that the title of episode 6 was The Flame of Tar-Valon, which is an early chapter in The Great Hunt. Right. So that kind of fueled those rumors about condensing seasons. And I can see how they could make that work, you know, especially if, you know, I think it was like chapter 19 in Eye of the World is Shadow Logoth, Shadows Waiting, and episode 3 was titled Shadows Waiting. You know, so we're moving fast through these things. And you know, that's fair.
I think it's okay. That's one thing about epic fantasy. When people complain about Tolkien's writing or Jordan's writing, a lot of times they complain about, the scene setting. He has to describe every branch on every tree and every dip in every valley, and I love that stuff. But if it's something that somebody's going to complain about, I would say, well, fine, let's watch the TV show where they can show you those 3 pages in the blink of an eye and then move on. And so you can take 15 chapters and you can, if you condense the story itself, then, you know, like Robert Jordan, I'm sorry, but if I had to read one more paragraph about somebody's clothing or the food, in tier or whatever, there are things like that can and should be skipped in a visual narrative. And so anyway, compress away. Just get to the bare bones of the story. Shift what you absolutely have to story wise. But yeah, compress.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. I'm pretty confident in how they're going to treat the story because I know Rafe is a huge fan, and I know Sarah Nakamura, who's kind of the lore mistress for the show. She's one of those people that, like she's on a certain level.
She's on another level. Yeah.
Yeah. She knows her stuff when it comes to the Wheel of Time, and I'm confident that she's helping provide some good direction.
Right. By the way, Chris Bonney in our chat says, can we get a Watt spoilers here in the title? Not likely that it'll matter for people here, but y'all are talking enough about spoilery stuff that it might be prudent. I don't think we've spoiled anything. Well, no, you did
other
spoil
than
one thing.
the Rand and the Wonder
Right.
But
I think it's all right. Journey before destination. Right?
I will say I saw in your chat a nice Black Company shout out. I love it.
Oh, did you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good.
Might have to get you on as a guest when we cover Black Company on our episodes. So
you can't make me do anything. I'm my own man. Okay, Drew. I will show you. Let me show you this. This is what my microphone or my camera right now is on a stand, and it's sitting on part of our TBR pile. I think it's backwards.
Ooh, okay. So I want to talk about James S.A. Corey. I have not read The Expanse, but I just recently finished A Shadow in Summer by Daniel Abraham, and he's one half of James S.A. Corey.
Oh, okay.
And A Shadow in Summer was beautiful. One of the two best books I've read this year.
Okay. What was the other one?
A Memory Called Empire by Arkady Martine.
Okay. I've heard the name, but I don't know anything about it.
Phenomenally written. Beautiful space opera that deals with like culture and language and like narrative as a cultural touchstone. I don't know. It's like a wet dream for me as an English major. Like But yeah, A Shadow in Summer was very, very good. So
nice.
If that's the kind of talent that Daniel Abraham has, I need to check out The Expanse as well.
Right on. Well, I had like 3 or 4 people just about to have a wet dream when I showed them this, and so I'm just going to do that again so that you guys can all like get super stoked. Here it is. Oh, they're so excited for me to do The Expanse. I think I actually think. Sorry, this is for the people in my chat. I apologize. And for the people in your chat, if you don't know, the Legendarium is split into red team and blue team, and I'm on the red team. And The Expanse may be a blue team series. We shall see.
But you're gonna have to cross over if they do that.
I don't know. It's red team stuff keeps me really busy, honestly. Yeah. So it's tough to say.
If blue team does Expanse, what's top of the list for after Lightbringer for red team?
So we want to slow it down a little bit. There's at least one strategic thing that I would like for us to get to. So the red team is me and Ryan, and then sometimes it's Kyle, sometimes it's Stephanie, but me and Ryan at the core. And if you go back in our archives, the very first thing we ever did was The Lord of the Rings. And we had a lot of fun with it. And I think it's pretty informative. There's a lot of like good nuggets in there, but we didn't really have our format dialed in. We didn't have our style dialed in. And so if you go back and listen to them, it's like watching a pilot for a show that went for 9 seasons, right? You go back to the pilot and you're like, really? Oh boy, that took a while to hit its stride. So after we do Lightbringer, which I think we should probably talk about a little bit, what I'd like to do is finish The Hobbit, We're halfway through The Hobbit. I'd like to get that done.
Right.
And then I'm thinking about redoing our Lord of the Rings series. Not a full 17 episodes the way that we did. But I'm thinking there are 6 books in the Lord of the Rings, so we should do 6 episodes again on the Lord of the Rings. And so before people freak out, I haven't made this official yet, but that's kind of where my head is at. Part of the reason for this, like I said, it's kind of a strategic thing where if you type in Lord of the Rings podcast into Google, in fact, I think I'm going to do that right now and see where we're at. Lord of the Rings podcast. There we are, number 1 ranking, which I'm shocked by and very pleased with. But the problem is when somebody searches that. Well, no, not that. It's that when someone searches that, they're like, I want to listen to a good Lord of the Rings series. So they click on that and they're like, okay, I'll start with episode 1. And it's our first ever episode and it's not very good. And so I know for a fact that we've left a lot of potential new listeners on the table. Mm-hmm. Just from, because that's the first thing of ours that they see. And so I'd like for there to be something else that they can check out. So it sounds a little bit kind of cynical marketing-y, but I think it's kind of important for us. It's always fun to go back to our roots, and I think it'll serve a good purpose in helping us to grow the podcast and all that stuff. So.
Yeah, well, and it makes sense with the Amazon show coming out soon. A lot of people are going to be looking for Lord of the Rings podcasts, and if you can get fresh content online, that'll help the old SEO. And
exactly, exactly. So if it sounds a little bit like cold-blooded, it's not. I mean, I love the Lord of the Rings, and I want to read it all the time. So it's kind of a good, 2 birds with one stone kind of thing.
As long as we can do a quick 5th battle unnumbered tiers Silmarillion episode that I can jump in on,
Speaking of which, I want to see how many people are in our chat. We've got 12 people there. Let me know in my chat, you guys. Let me know if you are enjoying the Silmarillion series, because we got to do at least one. And Drew is going to be coming in studio next month, and so the plan is to do a Silmarillion episode then. I hope you guys enjoy it. They are talking about getting Professor Craig to show back up, which is my nickname whenever we do Tolkien stuff, because it's annoying.
Hey, I get it. You've been on a couple of our Wheel of Time episodes, so.
Yeah, I remember.
But yeah, speaking of me being in studio, should we talk a Starsight release a little bit?
Starsight. Oh, by the way, somebody says, just real quick, Mark from our Discord server calls you a walking Watt encyclopedia. And he loves you discussing it. So.
Oh, glad to hear it. Thank you, Mark.
So, let's talk Starsight. Now, here's what I blew your mind a little bit earlier, Drew, by admitting that I have not yet gotten to
Skyward.
That one. That was a blue team episode, and we've been so busy on the red team this year, I haven't even gotten around to it yet. I kind of feel like I should. Maybe the moment I finish the last Lightbringer book, and I've got 2 weeks. I need to read 2.5 books. Anyway, sorry, but once the moment I finish a Lightbringer book, I think I'll probably go read Starsight. I'm serious. I know what I'm doing after this stream. I just got sweaty. I'm wasting my time. I need to read these books. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
So I feel like I should read it. We'll come back to Lightbringer in just a second.
Yeah.
Anyway, Starsight release. Tell me your thoughts.
Yeah. So, if anybody in the chat here is like Craig and has not read Skyward, now is the time. Skyward is very good.
I see. I thought you were about to spoil it.
No.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
I'm saying, Skyward is very, very good. in my opinion, one of the best books Brandon has written. Certainly the best. Ooh, actually, I do love Firefight, but one of the best YA, like non-Cosmere books Brandon's written. Starsight is hands down the best non-Cosmere book he's written, and it's on another level. I mean, it's so good.
For those who are confused, Drew is a beta reader.
Oh yeah,
so.
Yeah. I've been plugging it. If you're in any of the Brandon Sanderson Facebook groups, you've probably seen me pushing this really hard over the last couple of months, because I truly think that everybody needs to be reading Skyward, and Starsight is going to blow your minds when it comes out.
Very nice.
And yeah, I'm going to be driving out for that release in November, so I'll be stopping by the Legendarium studio, and we'll see what happens there. But
what sort of shenanigans we can get up to?
Yeah.
We're gonna make you spin the wheel. You know that, right?
Ooh, on the weekend episode. Ooh.
Yeah. So that'll be fun. We'll do 2 episodes.
I've been enjoying those, by the way, especially as an English major, when you guys are talking about like death of the author and like separating author
art from artist
text. Yeah, and I'm like, I have strong opinions on this.
I'm afraid to ask, because I'm like, a can of worms right there.
Yeah. Well, we can cover that another time.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that another time. So if anybody is around for the Starsight release, I'm sure Brandon will go to a few places. This is probably one where he won't do an extended book tour the way he would with a Stormlight, but he'll probably hit a few places. Drew is coming out to Utah, and we're going to go to the one down in Provo, kind of the main release night party. So we'll be there. If anybody else is around, find us. That'll be a lot of fun. Joshua would like me to ask you about White Sand 3. You wrote an article before it came out. Curious to hear your hot take on Volume 3.
You're going to be disappointed, because I actually have not read Volume 3 yet. I have not been able to get my hands on a copy.
Really?
Yeah, it has not showed up at any of my local bookstores, and I ended up just ordering one off of Amazon, and it's coming along. Should be here probably next week. I do know a couple of things, a couple of details from it, and what I've heard is very intriguing. For one, I'm a big Bayon fan. He's like one of my favorite Cosmere characters, period. And it sounds like he's got a pretty cool scene in White Sand 3.
Right on.
So, yeah.
I guess we can look forward to that.
Yeah, and if you want to get like a little more of a Bayon deep dive, you can always check out the White Sand Prose in Brandon's newsletter. Although he's getting some due justice in the graphic novels, it sounds like.
You think so?
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's picked up since Volume 1? A lot of people were really dissatisfied.
I do.
Okay.
I think they've like recognized a lot of the issues that people had with them. And I'm always going to be a White Sand defender. I love that story. I love those characters. And maybe I'm a little more dismissive of some of the complaints that people have about it, just because I love that story so much. But I really think they're aware, and we'll see. You know, I think the future of White Sand is bright. We're gonna get to see some cool things in the future. So
right on. Well, very good. All right, Drew. What else should we talk about before we?
Before you mentioned Lightbringer, and I'm interested to talk about Brent Weeks, because I might have some spicy takes here.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, let's see. A little background. Where the state of my read through. I am halfway done with book 3.
Okay.
So a little over halfway. I want to finish that. What's today? What is today? Monday?
It is Monday the 7th.
Oh. So my goal is to have book 3 done by Friday.
That's doable.
And then book 4 done within a week of that. Basically, let me tell you why. Let's see. Let me look at my calendar. Oh gosh. So The Burning White comes out 2 weeks from tomorrow. And
that's why you want to. Okay.
Ryan and I have the advance review copy. He has read it. He's finished with the series, and I'm trying desperately to catch up and record the episodes as we go. And so I'm trying to finish it, but I want to get Burning White read before, like by the 20th, by Sunday the 20th, so that we can record an episode. Is that even possible? These are door stoppers. Like, these are Words of Radiance style door stoppers, and so I'm legitimately stressed about it. Like, yeah, I want to get it done. I think it's important, and so yeah, everybody's like, read faster. Well, I would, but I'm always live streaming with you people. So
yeah. Sorry about that.
Stephanie, Joshua asked if Stephanie's read it. Stephanie is done with book 4. I don't think she's read book 5 at this point. So anyway, yeah, that's literally like the moment we hang up here. What I've taken to doing lately is you do like audiobooks you pair an audiobook with a mindless task, right? And so you can really crank through an audiobook that way. And so there's a custom tower defense game on StarCraft. Squadron Tower Defense. And so I just put on Squadron Tower Defense. I click around a little bit and I crank through a bunch of Lightbringer that way. And I'll have to stop and take notes every once in a while when something comes out. So
yeah,
anyway.
I can't do audiobooks myself. They just frustrate me. Like my wife does audiobooks and she listens to them at like 1.8 times speed.
Oh yeah.
And that's madness to me. I'm like, it's chipmunks, you know? But if you do it at a more normal, like, speaking speed, it's way too slow for me. Like, cause I read very quickly. And so I like, can't find a good balance with audiobooks, and I wish I could, because I now have a hour to 2 hour drive from Fort Collins to Denver, you know, for my job, and and so I've just turned to podcasts, but I really wish I could do audiobooks and not like go out of my mind, like grinding my teeth, being like, talk faster, but yeah. And the other thing with audiobooks is, for me, oftentimes I'll read differently than the narrators read them. So, for instance, going back to The Black Company, there's the 7th book. It's called Bleak Seasons. Has probably my favorite opening page in all of fiction. And I read the cadence and the emphasis on words in that a very specific way. And I heard that opening page from the audio because my cousin listens to him. And it was still really good, but there was one line in particular it's just gorgeous and heart-wrenching and incredible, and falls flat on the audiobook for me because he doesn't read it with the same cadence that I read it. And I'm like, you know... So
yeah, no, I get it. Real quick before it disappears out of my chat feed here, Alex LeBlanc would like you to know that he loves your work on the Cosmere Facebook page.
Oh, thank you, Alex. Glad to hear it.
All right, so let's see. Oh, okay, Chris has some. I think HW means homework for tonight, so he has to jump off, but thanks for the stream. Drew is awesome, and I'm subscribing to Inking Out Loud.
Awesome.
So, cool. Well, if you subscribe to Inking Out Loud, like I said at the top, go check out the RSS feed too. Subscribe to the podcast, because the YouTube page, right, that's not exactly your main milieu.
Right, yeah. We're working on the YouTube page, but our main focus is on our like actual podcasts. So
right, cool. Yeah. Oh gosh, sorry. What else do we want to talk about with Lightbringer? I talked about where I'm at.
I'd love to just talk Brent Weeks in general with you.
Sure.
And kind of get your opinion on both Night Angel and Lightbringer.
Sure. So Brent Weeks was the guest of honor at this year's Jordan Con, so we had a chance to rub shoulders with him a little bit. Ken and I had the opportunity to go to dinner with Brent and his wife while we were out there in Atlanta. That was cool. A lot of fun. And then he came on. Yeah, we did a recording. We recorded enough material for 2 episodes this week with him over Skype with me and Ryan. So we've let's see. Cosmere Podcast asked, "Is Brent Weeks too horny?" So we may get there. Hang in there. So anyway, so I've interacted with him enough now that I feel like I've got a decent handle on his personality from an acquaintance level, at least.
Sure.
So anyway, where do you want to go with this, Drew?
Well, so I've read Way of Shadows and I've read The Black Prism.
Okay.
And I did not go on
with either.
Okay.
That surprises me about The Black Prism. It does not surprise me about The Way of Shadows.
Yeah, I will say Black Prism was a much better book. I thought it was a tighter narrative, better characters, better ideas. But I am especially curious to like hear your opinion because you read the Cosmere before Lightbringer.
Right.
And to people in your chat as well, I'd like to hear opinions. I felt very much like Lightbringer was discount Cosmere. It was Brent Weeks trying to do what Brandon Sanderson is doing with like the magic system type hard magic, the same types of characters, the same types of Sandersonian twists and a Sanderson avalanche, and not doing it as well.
Okay. I see what you're saying. My response to that would be, do you like the Monkees?
The band?
Yeah.
They're okay.
Yeah, they're okay. Like, you probably know their radio hits. If you listen to one of their albums, you'd be like, oh, man, these guys are really talented. The Monkees were a group that was put together. They were like the world's first boy band, where a record company said, holy crap, these Beatles are really popular.
Yeah.
And so we need to cash in on this. So they throw the Monkees together, and they got this guy. His name was Davy Jones, and he was an actor. And they're like, can you be the front man for this band? And at the time, in the 60s, if you didn't play an instrument, you couldn't be in a band, right? And so they hand him a tambourine and say, that's your instrument. So that's why in all the Monkees songs, he's just like slapping the tambourine on his thigh, right?
Yep.
And so it's total discount knockoff Beatles, and it's great. You could say the same thing about ELO, Electric Light Orchestra.
Yeah.
It's discount knockoff Beatles, and it's great. That if I buy into your premise, which I, for the sake of this discussion, I'll say fine. I might want to think more about it and revise my opinion later, but let's just say fine. He saw what Sanderson was doing and said, holy crap, I want to get in on that. And so he comes up with his own cool hard magic system, his own kind of, large, expansive narrative with many different POVs, and says, all right, let's see if I can do that. And I'm fine with that. Like, if that's how it came about, then I'm cool with saying, like, hey, great job. Did you ever watch White Collar?
No.
Okay. Or Catch Me If You Can, which was basically like the prequel to White Collar.
I really want to watch Catch Me If You Can, but I have
not.
Well,
the point you should, by the way, it's a great movie. Yeah. But either way, the point of what I'm trying to say is that even if you are a counterfeiter, it takes a really talented artist to do a great counterfeit of something like that, Yeah. And so even if that's the case, I'm like, you know what, this is it's scratching the same itch. It's also good stuff. So
yeah,
anyway,
and that's fair. Like I can understand that perspective. It was just like for me, I tried Weeks because I had heard that it would scratch that itch for me, and it didn't. And that was where it fell apart for me. And I will also say I felt like Way of Shadows was kind of a discount version of some other grimdark authors.
Sure,
And that also, like, I'm like, I've read the first book of 2 different series from this guy, and both of them feel like knockoffs of other authors. Like, is this just his shtick? You know, like where he's going to be derivative no matter what he does. And so that was also something I had to grapple with.
Right. So here's a thought for you. That may be the case. You take people who are really, really original. I mean, in a way, yeah. Tolkien,
Yeah.
Sanderson, Robert Jordan. Who else might we consider in George Martin?
Glenn Cook, I will argue vociferously for Glenn Cook being original, but yeah.
I don't. Well, I just don't know about Glenn Cook's personality. But if you take those other 4 guys, weirdos. They're weird dudes.
Yeah.
In very different ways, right? In very different ways. Or Pat Rothfuss, weird dude.
Yeah.
But like Sanderson, I've interacted enough with Sanderson at this point to say, like, all those jokes about how he's a machine, like they probably don't know quite how close to the truth that is, right? Like he is a one-track mind machine. He is focused. He knows what his life's work is going to be, and he's in on that stuff. He's not only an author, but he's a great marketer. He's very George Lucas-y that way, like just the way his mind works. He's a weird dude. Robert Jordan, we've already discussed a little bit. Like, he
was a Mason. He had some,
he had some weird views about sex and religion and marriage and Anyway, my point is this: to be and not just an artist, but an artiste. It comes with a certain amount of like weirdness, and that may be unavoidable. Brent Weeks is a really normal dude. He's an extremely nice guy. He's very easy to talk to, but he's a very normal guy. And from what I've seen, and again, I don't have some window into Brent Weeks' life or anything, but from what I've seen, he's pretty regular guy who really loves books, and he loves writing, and he's good at it, and he enjoys all these other authors and all that stuff. And so if you have an author who is derivative, as you're saying, and again, I will have to think more about this before I totally buy your premise.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I'm not sure that it's such a bad trade-off to like. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think I get where you're going. Like it's a balancing act, so to speak.
Sure. If I ever wrote a book, 100%, like I'd be in the Brent Weeks camp. Like I don't have any amazing original ideas floating around in here. I would just grab all the other stuff off these shelves and like dump it all into the pot and say, let's see what we can make. This is gonna be fun.
Yeah, and I can't I make these judgment calls at the risk of being a hypocrite because I am a writer, and I'm well aware that the books I've written are by no means groundbreaking new masterpieces. The last book I wrote has I think I did a pretty good job of making it original and things, but the long term arc of the trilogy I had planned, there are definitely things that readers are going to be like, wow, this reminds me of Brandon Sanderson, or this reminds me of Glenn Cook, or this reminds me of Robert Jordan, or this whatever, and I'm aware of that. So I'm not claiming I'm some genius, but as a reader, I still feel like I can reserve a little bit of judgment, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, I got you.
So yeah, and I'm willing, to give Weeks Another Shot at some point. Like it's been on my list. We'll probably end up covering Lightbringer at least on our podcast.
Yeah.
At some point, but we just have so much on the list before that. I mean, we're in the middle of, we just recorded our final episode on The Fires of Heaven yesterday. We got a long way to go on the Wheel of Time before we're diving into another big time series. And we're probably going to do the Black Company. We're probably going to do the Gap Cycle. We're going to do Illuminae. We got a lot of plans before we get to Brent Weeks, but I'm not willing to just like totally write them off yet.
No, I got you. And I hope you don't. I think the Lightbringer series so far, again, I'm 2.5 books in. I think it's remarkable. I think it's really, really quite good. Even if it is derivative, if he was, pulling out of, if he was reaching into Brandon Sanderson's cookie jar, pulled out a damn good cookie.
And I'll say,
again, I'm not. I don't think I'm quite bought in on this is just Sanderson light. I do think that he does a few different things with his main characters that character-wise are unique enough, or different enough, I should say, that they merit analysis. Okay. Anyway, I want to go over to our chat here because there's some response here. Cosmere Podcast says 90% quality Brando Sando is still better than most of what's out there. I think that's true.
Yeah.
Terry Goodkind is way more knockoff Watt than Brent Weeks is.
Oh my gosh! Don't even.
I haven't read him. I don't know anything about it.
That's not knockoff. That's not derivative. That's straight up plagiarism.
Horizon Brave says the problem with my argument is that they're not pushing the creative envelope any. It's fine to say that those types of limitation writing is just fast food, etc. But to praise them for it is a bit too far. They're not taking anything and moving it forward. Why does everything have to be this grand step or this grand leap forward for creativity, for art, for anything? When I want to eat, I don't need a 3-star Michelin restaurant every single time. That's not the way that I eat. I eat for sustenance, and damn it, McDonald's is delicious. And does that make sense? I think it's okay.
Yeah, I read plenty of stuff just for the entertainment value of it. But I will admit I've become a little more discerning in recent years as my reading volume has gone down, where I've been spending more time on my own writing. And so when I'm going to dedicate time to reading, I want to dig into something a little meatier, a little more engaging for my writer's sensibility.
Uh-huh.
And that was part of why I started inking out loud in the first place, is I felt like there was a little bit of a void for a podcast like that can dig into science fiction fantasy books from more of a writer's perspective than necessarily like a book club like what you guys are doing, which is awesome. And you guys keep me sane on my 2-hour commute into Denver. And but I wanted to be able to discuss these same kind of books from a more critical academic perspective, maybe. And that's not to say that we don't, have our fun on the podcast, as you saw. But yeah, I don't know. So I will never judge people for being I just want a fun book to read and have a blast with, and because I do that too. But I also do try to seek out books that I can engage with on a more substantial level.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm also looking at our chat over here, and Horizon Brave is giving me grief, thinking that apparently they think that I'm saying that Brent Weeks is just as good as Brandon Sanderson. That's an interesting way to
interpret that.
Anyway, I will say, nope, I won't say that. I'm not going to say it.
Okay.
I'm going to leave that. I'm just going to leave it there. What I will say is I should probably wrap this up. We've been going for an hour, Drew.
Yeah, holy cow.
Not to mention the hour that we spent trying to get this all set up. So
yeah, I'm a streaming noob, unfortunately, but you gotta get back to your Lightbringer.
Okay, so before we go, we have to answer the question. Horizon Brave says they're just pushing my buttons. Well, consider my buttons pushed. So we should probably talk about the question of whether Brent Weeks is horny enough. So you've read 2 books now. I'm trying to think. In the first Lightbringer book, there's not a ton.
No, not much.
But in the Night Angel trilogy, the second book is where it gets the most, and so you don't taxidermied slave women holding up furniture in the God King's room and that sort of thing. Like, it gets pretty.
Oh, yikes!
yeah, it gets a little crazy. And lots of sex stuff. Well, I don't know
if your listeners are into that. They should probably check out The Ruin of Kings by Jen Lyons. I was not a fan. I thought it was terrible, and she was a little too horny when she wrote that book. But what I do remember from Way of Shadows, and granted, this was like 7-8 years ago that I read that book. I remember he used sexual violence as shock value a little bit in that. There was one really horrific with doll face with the scarring and
Oh, right.
where I was like, man, was that really necessary?
Right.
Come on. But yeah, I didn't get to any gratuitous.
It gets pretty shocking later in the series. So I think what a couple people are asking about or insinuating is that Night Angel isn't as good as Lightbringer, and I'm like, totally.
yeah. I mean, just the one book I read, I would say Black Prism was definitely better than Way of Shadows.
One of my mild regrets with our podcast is that we did 2 episodes per book on the Way of Shadows. And it didn't deserve it, I don't think. So anyway, when Ken and I went to dinner with Brent and his wife in Atlanta, I had only read Night Angel. I hadn't read any Lightbringer yet at that point. And my thought on and I knew I was going to, and Ryan was like, Lightbringer's amazing. So I was looking forward to a good series, but I was like, Night Angel was only okay at best. Looking back. But anyway, so Ryan finished the Night Angel trilogy, and he says, you guys, we're going to do this one on the show. It's going to be amazing. We got to do 2 episodes per book. And then we did it for the show, and he does his reread for the show. And when he did his reread, kind of, I think it was more behind the scenes than on the air, but he was like, yeah, that wasn't as good as I remember. So
no, we just did Ruin of Kings a few weeks ago, and we planned on doing 2 episodes for that book, and we did not do 2 episodes for that book.
No.
I didn't even finish it. I got a little more than halfway, and Rob got about 75-80% in, and we were chatting outside of recording, and we're like, we're not going to finish this, are we? Because it was just not good. It was not good.
Yeah.
And it was a bummer because it was hyped up so much by Tor. It's their big, new, immersive, if you're a fan of George R. R. Martin, Robert Jordan, Patrick Rothfuss, you want to read this book. And I understand why they made those comparisons, because she does some narrative things with point of view and structure very similar to Name of the Wind, where there's it's a dialogue where there's a guy in prison at the start, and this woman is interrogating him, and she's like, let's talk about your story. Your story starts here. And he's like, no, my story starts here. And so they alternate chapters telling his story. So it's her chapters, her narrative is third person about him, and then his are first person about him, and they alternate. And it was like, okay, like this is like a Name of the Wind type, Kvoth frame story, whatever.
Right.
Except the execution was just like not there. And again, it's very horny, just very horny.
Nice.
And,
maybe I will have to read this book. I don't know.
I mean, it's like the first one we've done on our podcast that Rob and I just like did not like.
Yeah.
So
what was the first one? Oh, our first one like that was Robin Hobb.
Yeah, I was gonna say Assassin's Apprentice.
Yeah, that was. I came around by the end of that trilogy. I came around it somewhat by the end of the trilogy, but that first book, I was like, screw this.
I'm surprised you made it through all the way to the end.
When we do a book for the show, and I've told people this on the chat and other places, like they're always kind of teasing us, like you should read this or that, and I'm like, be careful what you wish for, because if we pick up 50 Shades of Grey, if we do Twilight, like we're going to take it seriously, we're going to read it all the way through, and we're going to give it the analysis that like any book should get, right? And anyway, so that's kind of how I feel here as well, where it's like, got to take it seriously. So,
Yeah.
So with like Kyle didn't make it through, and I didn't feel comfortable not finishing it, so I had to finish it so I could see. Anyway,
yeah, that's fine.
Well, I said 5 minutes ago that we were going to wrap it up, and we should probably wrap it up. So I'll say thanks to everybody on my chat, and thanks to everybody on Drew's chat.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a kind of random Monday night impromptu live stream.
So. Yeah, thanks for texting me. Drew said, "Want to do a live stream?" I was like, "Of course, I want to do a live stream. Let's do a live stream." All right. Well, I'm going to go read some Lightbringer, and thanks again, everybody. Thank you, Drew.
Absolutely.
And all right, I will see everybody a little bit later.
Adios.
Oh, and Drew, if you.
Oh, no.